You are listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around good guy, Paul Valverde. Now, on to the show.
What's going on, New Jersey? Thank you so much for joining us one more time. I have the pleasure and privilege to have with us today Raffi Jamgotchian, founder and CEO of Triada Networks, a IT and cybersecurity services company. Raffi, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. I'm happy to finally be able to have you on the show. I know we have been coordinating a couple of times to get this date, and the day has come. So I'm excited.
There it goes.
Raffi, will you please get us started by sharing with our audience about yourself, any fun facts or anything at all that you want them to know about you?
Sure. Moved to New Jersey as a young boy. We came over from London. My dad was a college student there, and then came here. And he was a mainframe programmer, so kind of grew up with computers in an age where most people didn't have computers or access to computers. So I was very fortunate that way. Ran a bulletin board service when I was a little kid out of my bedroom, and with high school. Then I went to study computer engineering in college before starting my IT career in the mid '90s. And so when after doing some engineering work, got a job for an IT person at an investment firm in New York, and in 2008. Left that firm to help start Triada Networks to help small companies deal with their IT and cybersecurity needs.
You know, how challenging or scary was the transition from having a secure job per se into starting a new business?
Yeah, super scary. We had 3 kids at the time, all young. I was the sole breadwinner, and it was super scary. We had a comfortable job, but it was time. We had come to the point where we needed to either leave the job, move someplace else of the country. We didn't want to leave here. We really like it in the Northeast. Our family's here, and it made sense for us to move on. But it was also, all I knew was working for financial companies, and it was right in the beginning of the financial crisis. So it was all these things kind of wrapped up together, kind of to give us the little bit of anxiety, but it also gave us a push to really make this work out. We figured, we'll give it a shot. If things don't happen, I can always turn around and get a job. And 13 years later, we're still here.
Nice. That's wonderful. So I have another question about that process, because people go about it many different ways. Some people just follow their passion and kind of wing it and build a plane in the air, so to speak. And some people really think it through and really plan it out and really come up with a strategy in order to make things happen. Where were you? Like, were you building the airplane in the air, or were you like really?
I mean, we had a raft we were floating on, and we kind of built the boat around it. It wasn't really something so. We were fortunate. We had 2 customers out of the gate. One was an existing employer. Another one was another person that left the investment firm that we all worked at and started their own investment company. So I already had these contacts. And between those 2, we're like, all right, we have a little bit of a foundation here. We have something to build on. So that's kind of how. So I would say it was probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But definitely more building as we. I mean, I was an engineer. I had gotten my MBA. I had done some management work, but I didn't know how to run a business, and they don't teach you how to run a business in college. So it was definitely a trial by fire from that point forward as a business owner.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the way to do it, because quite often people get caught up in that planning stage and kind of fall into procrastination, and nothing ever happens. Quite often people fail horribly because of lack of or perhaps poor planning. Yeah. But having a mixture of the two, kind of like what you say, having that raft, you had already something going on, and so you kind of took a risk that worked out, because it's been how many years you said?
been 13 years.
13 years. That's wonderful. Raffi, I'm very happy. That's great.
November. So yeah, it's interesting. I totally agree with you. We started to we didn't know what our business model was going to be. So, we basically from the get-go, we just said, let's provide, the service and support that these two companies need, split our time between the two, and we'll figure it out. And then what really kind of propelled us to be a true business was when we started to connect with peers and the industry around IT services, and then learning what they were doing. It's one of the coolest things about being in this business as a managed service provider or a cybersecurity firm in IT is that the other businesses are really giving. They'll tell you what they're doing. They'll tell you what works. They tell you what doesn't work. It doesn't matter if you're in their backyard or you're across the country. They're super helpful. And it was really those folks that helped me really design what our business ended up becoming. And we're evolving. We always evolve. Every couple of years, you have to, take a look at the whiteboard, see what needs to be erased, what needs to be kept, and move forward.
Yeah. Okay, so we're 13 years later. We have a thriving business that's up and running. Please share with us about the services that you offer, maybe some experiences you've had, some anecdotes that you want to share. Sure. About how you help your clients.
Yeah, so we help out companies with all parts of their technology needs, everything from basic support and maintenance, buying equipment, setting it up, to strategizing how technology should be used to propel their business forward, as well as making sure that they have the right protections in place, especially in this day and age with all the hacks and other breaches that are going on, which is front and center to what a lot of people are thinking about. We wanted to make sure that we are also doing everything to protect their businesses. Ultimately, their businesses are their livelihoods, just like our business is our livelihood. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect them from the risks out there. So that's kind of what we do. That's our framework, that's our baseline. And what we do to do that is we have tiers of support. We provide we have a 24-hour help desk. So if folks need help, they at any time of day or night, they can call in, get help, get their systems running. If we've dealt with a lot of different things and needs over the years, everything from, we used to be kind of broad-minded in terms of the types of clients that we use. We took everybody, as probably a lot of small businesses do when they're first starting out. And because our background was in financial, we kind of niched into financial, but we deal with a lot of different firms. An interesting story that we mentioned, we talk about a lot is, we had a client and a prospect. They weren't a prospect yet, but basically they got hit with the same kind of event. An email came in. It looked like it was an invoice from DHL. Both their finance people opened it up. Our client that was running, we realized we found the issue. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. By 4:20, we had picked up that something had happened, and we had them recovered and ready to go. And they didn't, most of the employees didn't even realize that anything had happened. Yeah. Whereas the same event at a prospect, they eventually did become a client. They did the same thing. Unfortunately, they found out at that point they didn't have protections in place. Their backups weren't being done for 2 years. They lost 2 years worth of invoices and data and had to re-enter all that information by hand, which took many months and many people. So very costly, issue. So, it's one of those things where, an ounce of protection prevents a pound of cure kind of thing. So we want to make sure we sometimes go a little bit overboard, but we want to make sure people are well protected so that they don't have those kind of those events. Over 60% of small businesses go out of business if they're breached, and we don't want our clients to be that statistic.
Will you say that the majority of your time is spent in the preventive portion of the protection as opposed to okay.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be the wisest.
Yeah, I mean, that it doesn't. The recovery is recovery. So the issue with recovery is things happen. You will get attacked. You will get breached. So everybody will get viruses. It's just a matter of timing. How you react and recover to that is going to be the way that you're going to be measured as a company and us as an IT service provider. So we're very focused on not only prevention. We don't want the thing to happen at all if we can prevent it, but we know that's not necessarily always the case. You're going to get into car accidents. How you recover to that car accident and deal with it is going to be the real game. So we want to make sure that we have the right plans in place to get you back up and running as quick as possible.
So being in the IT and cybersecurity services industry, with a niche in financial companies.
Yep.
So would you say that is it financial advisors, wealth management? What type of financial companies would be the ones that may want to contact you and say, okay, this is the type of guy that I need, or the type of company I need?
Yeah, good question. So, finance is a very broad niche. You can call it a niche, but it's also pretty broad in of itself. So we primarily work with asset managers. So you can think of those as, private equity firms, small hedge funds, wealth managers, certainly anybody who's becoming a registered investment advisor. They have a higher level of compliance requirements. As a result, they need to do certain things to do their fiduciary responsibility. So as a result of that, it helps have somebody like that that is able to consume the services that we provide. But we do have some clients outside of financial services. Our largest client happens to be a chemical cosmetics ingredients company. The reason they started working with us is they had some specific needs around protecting intellectual property. Mm-hmm. So they had very formulas that they were building that they didn't want their competition to get a hold of. Yeah. So they had some interest around protecting that. Similarly, we have a couple of small biopharma companies that are developing new drugs. So they want to make sure that those systems are not in place. So they're the culture around protecting assets, whether those assets are money assets, whether that assets are intellectual property assets, those both assist in helping make sure that we're the right fit for that kind of company.
Yeah. And I think as business owners, so we may have an area which we would consider ourselves our area of expertise. Sure. Or a niche, and so we market to our niche. Correct. But if prospective customers or good potential customers come to us, which may be outside our niche, but still could work as people that we can actually serve and provide value to, then that works out, right? So oftentimes as business owners, when we pick a niche, it's mostly so that we target our marketing to that specific niche. That doesn't say that we won't take on other people.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think most small businesses, including in my field, they're afraid to niche down as a way to prevent other people, but that's far from the truth. Like you said, you target your marketing. It took us about 4 or 5 years into being in business and realizing, hey, most of our clients are in finance. This seems to be a good place for us. Let's make our marketing around those people. That becomes your avatar, so to speak.
Yep.
That's who you're talking to, and that you end up not only attracting those people, but also attracting like-minded people. One thing that's interesting about the finance world is many times people will leave the finance world and start other companies, but they still want to work with us because they know they realize where we come from. So it's also very helpful that way.
Yeah, Raffi, so walk me through the process that someone will go through, a company will walk through when they reach out to you. So how would they get in touch with you? What would happen once they get in touch with you? How would they go about hiring your services? Can you please tell me about that?
Yeah, so what we first do is when we work with a business owner, first is a conversation. First, we want to see if it's a company that wants to work with us. We want to work with them. We're just trying to get to know each other. We do a little bit of a, first date kind of stuff. Then we take the next level from that is if we want to continue to work together, we do an assessment of the business. So we review the business where they are. We see what they have in place. We compare that to a framework that we've designed that we think is it's a mix of industry and our best practices. Mm-hmm. And we see where they are and we say, okay, this is where you are today. This is where we think you need to go. This is what our plan would look like. And then that's where we then turn around and we'll do some sort of proposal to say, okay, if you'd like to work with us, this is what we would, what it would expect to be. So it's really kind of like a 3-step process. First is getting to know you. Second is doing that assessment. And third is then giving them a solution to how to work with us going forward.
Yeah, I think that's great. Making sure that you guys are the right fit for each other. Because otherwise there'll be issues down the road.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, and sometimes the assessment is something that becomes eye-opening to them, and they can turn around and take that assessment, work with their existing company. Mm-hmm. We hope they come and work with us, but it's something that we provide. We want to make sure that it's valuable. It's not something that we're just, many times an IT company will come in, say everything is wrong, give them a report, and then say work with us and we'll fix everything. We believe in educating the market a little bit. And so we want to make sure that they have the right tools in place to either solve the solution themselves or get the help they really need in order to solve that.
Good. Raffi, if I was to ask you what distinguishes Triada Networks from other IT services, cybersecurity companies, what would you say it is?
Yeah, that's always a rough one, right? Because there's so many IT companies, especially in our area. There's a ton, and finding the right one that's going to work with you. So I'll give you kind of a few things that set us a little bit apart. One is we're fairly small and nimble, which means that we can move very quickly for a company. But we're large enough that we actually have some structure around ourselves and some process. Mm-hmm. So we built up that process over the years. We're constantly developing it. It's not something that we don't, it's an ever-changing world. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of it. And so we continue to do that in our business. We do follow a fairly, I wouldn't say rigorous, but fairly straightforward process around that, including what I just mentioned. Our assessments are fairly comprehensive. And as a result, we put together really, I think, well done processes around protecting and developing not only our client companies in the short term, but in the long term. And as they iterate and as they mature, we help them along that process. We want to make sure that they're using technology really to propel their business forward, and we're not just the people that come and say no to things. We're the ones that are actually saying yes, and this is how you can do it better. That's really kind of what sets us apart.
Nice. Wonderful. I appreciate that, Raffi. Raffi, I really appreciate your time. I thank you for sharing about your trajectory as an entrepreneur and how you started your business. And also for sharing with us about the services that you provide. How can people receive value from you? Folks, we're going to be linking all of Raffi's information in Triada Networks to the YouTube video if you're watching via YouTube or Facebook. We're also going to include in the Instagram description, as well as the podcast of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. So be sure you get in touch with Raffi if you feel that his company has the services that you need. And Raffi, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us in today's episode.
Thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.